It's graduation season. And in today's episode, we're going to look at one thing that you dare not say to your child on graduation day or after graduation unless you really want to raise a narcissist. You know, for this episode, I really debated about what to call it. One of the titles I considered was, Don't Tell Your Child You Can Be Anything You Want to Be. Another title that I thought of was, A Common Parenting Mistake That is Damaging and Destroying Our Youth. But I settled on just the one thing to not tell your child at graduation. Welcome to the Steps and Tools podcast. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin, and I want to just share a few thoughts with you about a common parenting mistake that is taking its toll on people around the nation, around the world, in the form of depression, in the form of discouragement, because people have unrealistic expectations for what life should give them and how easy it should be. The problem, as I see it, is most noticeable with the pattern of parenting that says, I need to encourage my child at all costs. I need to help them become anything they want to be. There's several approaches to parenting that involve being fiercely protective, obsessively encouraging, and very indulgent. We have schools that give awards for the simplest of things. If you can breathe, you get an award. If you show up on time, you get an award. And while these may be helpful for certain situations, that tendency to just give rewards for everything is gotten out of hand. And we've become obsessed with success, and a lot of parents become obsessed with living out their own dreams through their kids. Of course, that would not apply to you. I'm talking about those other parents. Now let's talk for a minute about why it's unhealthy to tell your child you can be anything you want to be. The first area has to do with emotional intelligence. One of the goals of parenting is to prepare children for life. We want them to be able to live in a world as adults and be able to navigate that world with a certain amount of savvy and knowledge and wisdom and love, be able to have a capacity for relationships. And emotional intelligence is oftentimes a good measure of how ready someone is for life. And three of the components of emotional intelligence are frustration tolerance, reality testing, and self-awareness. Now, as children grow up, it's important to not overwhelm them. Kids can get traumatized by having too much of a challenge for their capacity at that age. There's things that a 16-year-old should be able to do that could be challenging, but if you give that same task to an 8-year-old, you can really overwhelm the child and leave some sort of lasting scar where the child just won't attempt that task again. So what our job is as parents is to help scale the challenges as much as we can so that children do experience frustration. They do experience challenge, and they need to learn how to cope with that internally in their emotional life, but without doing it with such harshness so that it overwhelms them and hurts them. If we do that, if we scale it appropriately for their developmental level, then children grow up to expect that things that are valuable are difficult to obtain. Oftentimes, and so they have more determination. They have more perseverance, and they can rise to an occasion. They can overcome challenges. They can seize opportunities. But they need that quality that is sometimes called frustration tolerance or stress tolerance. The second aspect of emotional intelligence that is relevant here is called reality testing. And reality testing is important because it just means that you're clued in on what's really going on. We all recognize when someone, you're talking in a group and someone is talking as if they really don't grasp the situation. That person in that moment has poor reality testing. And if you've ever watched the old episodes of American Idol in the early stages of a season, where you have young people getting up to sing, and their parents have been telling them for years how wonderful and how amazing they are at singing, but they can't carry a tune. And you watch and listen, and you just cringe inside for this child. So this is when that happens, it's an example of a child not being given reality testing, not being taught to test reality and make an appropriate judgment about their own skills and abilities within a given situation. And again, the part of the reason why we parents do this, why we push kids to do things that are unrealistic, is that we have this, it's part of the American mythology that if you just dream it and you persevere, you will get it. But that really isn't true, and there's really no evidence that would support that that's true on a grand scale. Are there exceptions? By all means. But the exceptions really just illustrate the rule. A third aspect of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. This is perhaps the most important aspect, a foundational aspect of emotional intelligence. So we want our children to grow up having a sense of who they are and having a realistic view of their abilities, their capacities. We want them to know what's good inside them. We want them to know if they have gifts. We want them to really grasp those gifts and use them. But you don't want your child, if your child really doesn't have a singing voice, you really don't want to encourage them to be an opera singer. It's just probably not going to happen. And if your child is, wears glasses and has trouble with physical coordination, you probably don't want to encourage them to be an astronaut. The reality is that there are things that people can do, and there's wonderful things that people can do, but not every child and not every person can do everything that they set their mind to. It just isn't true. So we want to give kids self-awareness, and that includes knowing what's good and what they're capable of. Not in an arrogant way, but just in a matter-of-fact way. Yeah, I know I'm really good at the clarinet. I can just If I enter a competition, it's very likely I'm going to get first place. If that's the case, that's great. That's what you want them to know. But you also, when I was in middle school, I was a swimmer. And I really enjoyed swimming. I enjoyed being on the swim team. But after a couple of seasons, I realized I was just not going to be a fast swimmer. My times just did not bear that out. And no matter how hard I worked, I didn't get into the range of being a really fast swimmer. So I shifted gears and I shifted my energy into some other things that I really did excel at. So this is part of self-awareness, is understanding where you fit into the scheme of things and being okay with that, liking that, being, I like myself. I'm not perfect. I can't do everything, but the things I do, I like those things. Now the other reason why it's unhealthy for a child to be told that you can be anything you want to be has to do with resilience. When we're preparing kids for adulthood and adult life, we want them to be able to overcome obstacles. We want them to not be thrown into a deep depression because they didn't get that one job they had their heart set on. We want them to be able to bounce back and be creative and adapt and come at things from a different angle, or abandon one thing to go into something else and really do well at it. It's important for children to grow up to be resilient adults. They have to learn. They have to be weaned, what I mean by weaned, they have to be weaned from a type of thinking that is often called all or nothing thinking, the black and white thinking, where it's either this or it's that. Either I get to be an astronaut or my life is a failure. And we have to teach our kids as they grow, because small children are very black and white, and that's okay. So you don't want to push them too hard on that. But as kids grow and as they get into their teens, they need to learn how to be weaned from all or nothing thinking and into a more continuum-based thinking where they see things on a continuum and shades of gray. And yes, there are still absolutes and there are still things that are black and white, but many, many things in life are not. So then, if it's unhealthy for a child to be told this, why is it damaging? Why could it be damaging to your relationship with your child if you tell them that they can be anything they want to be? This is the question that I think a lot of people don't consider. If you tell your child that they can do anything they want to be if they just follow their dreams, they're going to learn to not trust your encouragement. Because when they hit a wall, either defined by the situation or by their own abilities, they're going to see you as someone who doesn't get it and doesn't have a grasp on what is real for them. And so they're not going to trust your encouragement in the future. And that's a pretty sad place to be as a parent, because life is discouraging. Growing up can be discouraging, and it's really nice if you can receive encouragement from your parents and feel like they really know what's going on. Secondly, your child may even be angry at you for setting them up to fail. That's one of the real dangers of telling them, you can be anything you want to be. They also might become angry later that you cared more about their success than you did about their happiness and their development. So, having said all that, is there a better way? Is there a better way to teach kids how to be prepared for life? And do we really want to just, is what I'm saying that we just throw cold water on kids' dreams? Not at all. We want to encourage them to dream big, but we want to also encourage them to mature in their ability to scale their dreams, reshape them, craft them, creatively reframe them, come at them from different angles. And so we want to teach them self-awareness, how to come to the understanding of their own uniqueness. We want them to learn how to be realistic while dreaming big. And this helps them to pick dreams they really can achieve, which is going to make them happier, more competent adults. We want to be with them in their disappointment. It's interesting, a lot of times we parents, we say we can't bear our child to be discouraged or disappointed, but oftentimes what I think is really going on is we can't bear how we feel when our kid is discouraged or disappointed. And really what the child needs is just not for us to fix it or to make it all better or to find a way for them to have an award after all, but to be with them in it and help them kind of just know, hey, this is disappointing. It's really sad. But you know what? You're not alone. I'm here with you. I think we need to help our kids learn discernment, when to persevere, and when to change course. We also need to teach them to balance idealism with realism. So, the person who's only realistic and has no idealism, we call that person cynical. But the person that's idealistic and doesn't have any realism is really going to hit a lot of walls in life and going to have a lot of rude awakenings as real life starts to affect them. So I hope I've convinced you that it's not a good idea to send a graduation card that says you can be anything you want to be or follow your dreams. But it's much better to encourage children to develop their potential and to be their cheering squad and rooting for them as they make the next the next accomplishment they tackle, and when they have to change plans, that we're cheering them on for a new course. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin.